Hey, I'm Rob. Today, I'm going to teach you how to make this perfectly looping animation. It's what's known as a satisfying animation. This is my first attempt at a satisfying animation, so let me know if you actually think it is satisfying. We're going to use animation nodes to make the loop seamless. You're going to want to learn this so that you can impress friends, family, get likes, subscribes, hit that notification bell. Let's go. Open up a new blend file, hit 1 on the numpad, go into edit mode, press GZ1. This puts the origin at the bottom of the cube. Now hit SX5. This stretches the cube out, not stresses it out, stretches it out. Hit 3 to get into face select mode, select the top face, and press GZ -1.8. I think that gives us a nice plank, don't you? Now I'm going to hit A and Control B, and I'm going to pull out a bevel, maybe roll up the mouse wheel this many times, tighten it up a little bit, just so that we look like we have a real plank. All right, tab out of edit mode, Shift A to create a cone, tab into edit mode, GZ1 to put the origin at the bottom of the cone once again, and then tab out of edit mode, GZ -2, and now you are perfectly touching right here, and we're going to tab into edit mode once again, hit 2 for edge select, alt click to get that bottom edge, Control B and pull out just a little bevel there, tab, shade smooth. Ooh, looking good. Shift A to create a plane, S100, I don't know, just make it big, GZ -2. And now everything is just lined up perfectly. Shift A, get a UV sphere, right click, shade smooth, hit G and move it the hell out of the way. Now, open up your animation nodes by creating a new window, going to animation nodes. If you don't have animation nodes, then you need to install the add-on. First, download animation nodes and then install the add-on. I'm going to create a new node tree. I'm going to go to node tree. I'm going to unclick always. I'm going to click tree change, frame change, property change. I wish these were the defaults. They're not the defaults. Close that with N. We want to start messing around with this plank's rotation. We want it to rotate on the Y. So I'm going to hit Shift A, search, and I'm going to get a transforms output. Zoom in on that so it's real close. Click on the plank, click on the eyedropper, and click on the Y of the rotation. Now we can mess around with the rotation of this plank like so. Very nice. Control A just to search frame. This tells us the current frame, which is 1. I'm going to feed that into here. That's going to create a combine Euler, and that's going to default to the X value, but let's change it to the Y value. The frame we're on affects the rotation. That is insane. That's like a windmill of insanity. I don't know what that means. Hit N, item, enable the end frame output of the time info. Hit N to get rid of that. Control A, I want a math node, float math. I want to divide the current frame by the end frame. And let's get a viewer. We'll feed this into here. At 0, we're at 0. At the end of the animation, we are at 1. Now we know the progress of our animation. We don't want to go from 0 to 1, however. We want to go from 0 to 2 pi. Constants. I'm going to set this to 2 pi. And I'm going to duplicate this math node, turn it into a multiply, and I'm going to multiply 2 pi by this value, which is between 0 and 1, which is going to now give us the values up to 2 pi. That's 6.28319, if you were curious. I'm going to feed that into here instead. Squeeze that in there. And now let's run our animation. And it's moving slower, which is good. We're making progress. Now what do we do with 2pi's? Well, we feed them into cosine functions. Shift D, we get a cosine, and feed that in there. Feed this into here, feed this into here. Let's run it. It's taking forever. Let's change our end frame to 100 so that we can loop faster. And that'll work just perfectly because we're looking at the progress of the animation. So now we're getting our teeter and we're getting our totter and our teeter. Multiply again. Okay, I'm gonna move these over. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna feed this into here, feed this into here. I'm gonna go back to the beginning of the animation. And I want to set this up at the very beginning of the animation to be the most rotated it's going to be. So I can rotate it. I'm going to hit 1 on the numpad, go over here, and I'm going to just adjust this to like right about there. And that looks marvelous. Let's just play this animation. God, it looks so good. Let's start messing with the ball. The ball needs its own transform. Shift D. This is a new object transforms output. Don't want to mess with the cube, as it's called. It's a plank. I'm going to undo the Y rotation. I'm just going to mess with the position. And since the ball is selected over here, I'm going to hit this I drop, and it is going to now put the ball at 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Just 3 zeros. We can actually use this cosine function, feed that into this location. That's going to give us a combined vector, and it's going to default to the X, which is what we want. And let's play the animation. And it is doing something like what we want, but we need to adjust it a little bit. So let's duplicate this multiply node. And let's go to the beginning of the animation, and let's just place this thing where we want it to be at the beginning of the animation. Hit 1 on the numpad, maybe go over a little bit, and then we can adjust the Z to be like there. Something like that. Okay, now let's play this, and voila. One issue though. There is still an issue. What is the issue? The Z value isn't changing. You would think it might be as easy as just taking this cosine and putting it into the Z value, but let's have a look at what's going on now. Well, we're still going from 1 to -1 to 1. Now, the first problem with that is that the frequency is different, because we actually want to go, for the Z value, we want to go from 1 to -1, back up to 1, back down to -1, back up to 1. So the frequency is doubled, actually. So I'm going to take these, and I'm going to duplicate them. And I'm going to take this value, which is the values 0 to 2pi, and I'm going to feed that into here so that we can multiply it by 2, and it becomes 0 to 4pi, which is going to double the frequency. Feed this into this cosine, and then take that result and feed that into the Z. Move these down. Now let's see how this is playing. Much better. Instead of adding a multiply node to get this right, I want to be adjusting 2 values simultaneously. So I'm actually going to get a map range node, Control A, map range, feed that into here. And our input is going from, remember, it's cosine, so it's going from 1 to -1. And then we can go here to the beginning of our animation. And since we're messing with the Z, we will look at the beginning, And we'll just adjust this to be right where we want it to be. And then we'll go to like a quarter of the way through the animation, which is 25. And see, it's a little bit low, so we can adjust the output max because this is the -1 value. We'll just lift that up a little bit. And play. It's perfect. It's perfect. A little fast, but we can fix that later. First, let's do shading. Open up your shader editor. Click on the plank or the cube, whatever you want to call it, and let's go to the shader view. Actually, I'm going to mess around with the light first. I'm going to make it, I'm going to turn it into an area light. I'm going to make it 5,000 watts. I'm going to hit Alt-G, Alt-R, GZ, and I'm going to move it up to taste. Something like this, perhaps. And I'm actually going to go into the world settings. I don't like all this gray in the background, so I'm going to take that down to black. God damn, that looks good. Okay, let's go back to the light settings, and I'm going to change this to a disk. And I'm going to just stretch that out. I'm going to stretch that out to like 10 meters. And now let's click on the cube or the plank. Let's make it metallic. Let's give it kind of a goldish color. It looks good. Take down the roughness. Oh, make sure we go into our EV settings. Now I'm going to start with the EV settings, but then I actually think the cycles settings look much better. Obviously, cycles always looks better. I'm going to add ambient, occlusion, bloom, screen space, reflections. There's that reflection that I want. Maybe bring down the roughness a little bit more. That looks pretty good. Click on this cone, create a new material, bring up the metallic, bring down the roughness, and maybe give it just a little bit of a teal color. It's hard to see now, but it'll look better later. Then we're going to click on this plane. Click on this plane. There we go. And I'm going to hit new. I'm going to create a metallic material. Maybe give it a little bit of roughness and give it like a nice, like, desaturated pink color. Cool. Yeah, this is looking pretty good. Now that I'm in the camera, I'm going to make a square, so 1080, so we can get that sweet Instagram aspect ratio. And let's hit the tilde so that you can use like the first person shooter controls, WASD, to move your camera around. Press Q to go down, and you can use your mouse to look around. It's really sweet. And then just run this thing, get it exactly where you want it to be. Yeah. All right. Let's update the ball here. Create a new material. Now, I want this ball to look like it's rolling, so I'm going to add a wave texture with Node Wrangler installed as an add-on. Hit Control-Shift-Click, and now we can see the waves on this thing. I'm going to bring this down to like maybe 0.5, or maybe a little bit more. I'm going to up the distortion. I'm going to lower the detail. Hit period on my numpad. Yeah, that looks pretty good.
Yeah, I'm just gonna mess with this until I get something I like.
I like that all right. Cool. Now I'm gonna search for a color ramp. And I'm just going to tighten up these colors a little bit. So there's almost just a really nice contrast. No feathering of the edges, or very little feathering of the edges. Cool. That looks pretty good. All right. And get another color ramp. Put that on there, and I'm gonna change this black value to like a dark blue, and I'm gonna get this value, and I'm gonna make it a like vibrant orange, something like this maybe. Now let's feed that into the base color. Control Shift click on the principled BSDF. And we're starting to get there. That looks pretty cool. Let's make it metallic, of course. Let's keep the roughness like, I don't know, right there. Now one more thing I want to do. Ooh, no, that's fine. One more thing I want to do is I want to like make this indented a little bit. So I can create a bump node. And I can feed this color ramp into the height, and then feed the normal into there, and now we've got like kind of this indent looking thing. Maybe take down the distance a little bit, take down the strength, tighten this up just a little bit. Yeah, and then that looks kind of cool, don't you think? I think so. It actually reminds me of a dog toy. So let's get rolling. Hit 0 on the numpad. Oh no. What happened? Well, we're not having it roll because we're not affecting the Y rotation. So let's go back to animation nodes. And the value we want to control now is the Y value of the sphere. See, we can roll it back, forward, back, forward. We're going to take our original cosine function. We're going to feed that into the rotation. It's going to create this combine Euler node, which is going to default to X. We want it to go into the Y. Let's look at front view here. And you can see it is rolling a little bit, but not in the direction we want. So we get our trusty multiply node. Duplicate that. And now it is working. We can adjust this to be like less roll, more roll. But I actually find that negative pi is a pretty good roll. I don't know if that's like a magic number. I mean, we all know pi is a magic number, but this is a decent roll. I'm gonna get rid of these things, and I'm gonna hit 0, and now we're looking pretty good. Now, I mean, the rest is up to you. You can dress the set however you like. You can change your materials however you like. You can, I like this to be really smooth, so I'm gonna change it to 24 frames per, or change it from 24 frames per second to 60 frames per second. And let's watch that. Now it's incredibly fast, but the beautiful thing is, you can change how many frames there are. Let's say 310, and it still loops perfectly. You don't have to change any keyframes around, nothing. It's just all handled with the animation nodes. The rest of this tutorial, I'm just gonna kind of dress up the set a little bit, and oops, go to the 3D viewport, click that, 7. I'm going to duplicate. You can pretty much do whatever you want here.
Duplicate this again. I'm going to S2 and biggen it. I'm going to duplicate again, S2 and smallen it. I'm going to duplicate again, S2 and biggen. And let's duplicate one more time. S2 and big and real big. Something like this. Maybe one more duplicate. S2 and small one.
And this is why we wanted the origin at the bottom of the cone, because when we embiggen and smallen it, it will stay on the floor. Cool, that looks kind of good. Roll that. Great. Yeah, you can do a number of things. You can add some motion blur. You can add some depth of field in the camera. I'm not really going to go into that stuff. I'm sure you can find that in a million other tutorials. But that basically does it for now. You know, most people would say like and subscribe and hit the notification bell, but I'm not going to say that. You know what I want you to do? Just click another video. Any video. It doesn't even have to be mine. Just feed the algorithm. Feed it. Feed the algorithm. Feed the algorithm. Feed the algorithm. The algorithm is the only thing that matters. Meet Mr. Grytham. Oh, Mr. Grytham. It's nice to meet you. Mr. Grytham? That's my father's name. My friends call me Al. Algorithm. All right, that's good.